This is Drilling Insight, where we talk about ideas and issues that affect the drilling and groundwater industries. I'm Jeremy Verduzco, host and editor of The Driller. On today's show, we have Greg Safran of Safety Integration. Thanks for being on the show, Greg.
Thanks for having me, Jeremy. Glad I could chat with you today.
So now Greg is Chief Safety Officer of Safety Integration, a Pennsylvania-based safety consultant group here. I met him at the recent National Drilling Association convention in Pittsburgh, and he gave a pretty engaging and I'll say a colorful presentation. So I brought him on to hear more, and we'll dive right into our usual opening question. So you're a consultant now, you've done drilling before. Did you choose this industry or did it choose you, Greg?
And I love that question, buddy. I'm going to say a little bit of both. My situation, I went to college way back in the good old days, a long time ago in a galaxy far away, let's say it that way. And I stumbled into geology class because I needed some science majors, and the rest is history. With my background, I grew up in a farm town, loved hunting, fishing, every chance to be outside, and I always thank God that I was made that way. And man, when I hit that geology professor, I had a class with Charles Schultz, phenomenal instructor at Slippery Rock University. He wrote the book called The Geology of Pennsylvania. So the guy's a brilliant geologist, and that just lit me on fire. To pay me to be out in the woods and go play with big equipment where you get to play in the mud, I'll do it for free, man.
Well, and plainly, you didn't make that deal. You didn't do it for free. You found work, and the rest has led you to where you are now, right?
Absolutely. And the thing that I really like about it is the guys and the girls that you work with out in the oil patch and on the drill rigs and the environmental side, because I played in all those arenas. All good people and all hard workers, and just trying to help in any way I could all through my career. I just absolutely loved it. I've met a ton of great people all over the U.S. and some outside the U.S. So it's been a blast, man.
So tell us a little bit about balancing the cost of safety measures versus the cost of not even having them, or not buying the latest and greatest, I guess. So, obviously safety is a good thing, but equipment costs have also soared. So tell us about how you think about that, or is this even fair given that we're talking about, human operators here?
Absolutely. And it's always fair. And that's a concern for a lot of people. A lot of my partners, I hate the word client and customer. And so I tend to look at it like, hey, we're in this together. So if I say, partner or business, I'm talking like clients, like most people would say. But so what goes on in the cost arena, in my opinion, is you can't afford not to have a safety program that's top quality. And the reason is, most times, I know equipment's expensive, the drills, all the support trucks, everything that goes along with it. But if you really step back and think about it, your most expensive asset is your people, especially if something goes horribly wrong and somebody gets hurt. Now you have all the associated costs that go along with that. You got comp, you got downtime, you have insurance increases. And I'm not just talking workers' comp. It affects a lot of different angles, your property, casualty, your liability, depending what the incident is. Auto cost. I mean, everything just continues to snowball. And then you look and go, man, I didn't realize, I had to retrain another guy because he's at home, can't work, whatever the story may be. So it tends to roll downhill when it gets big in a hurry. I think from my presentations, I like to tell stories. So I'll make you a short one here. I had a client that I worked with, a customer, a business partner. There you go. That when I walked in, he was having a lot of hand injuries, and everybody goes, that's normal in the drilling industry. Then I said, well, let me go out to your site. He's like, well, how much is that going to cost? I'm like, nothing. I'm just going to go out and take a look. It'll help me come up with a plan to help you. And I went out and met one of his crews, and they were all wearing those old jersey knit gloves, the brown cotton glove with the red liner inside of it.
Yeah, the kind of thing you might use to pick up leaves or something.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're not even good for that. Maybe to garden so you don't get a blister, but hell, they're not even good for that. So I was shocked, and I'm like, okay. I went, the guys were doing a really good job. I went back and chatted with the owner. I'm like, did you steal those from the basement of a Walmart somewhere? I didn't even think they made them anymore. I'm not talking, 20 years ago. I'm talking like 4. So it wasn't a long time ago, and I didn't even think they still made those hunks of junk. And I said, "Do you realize they have all kinds of new gloves out there? They have the kind that are, cut rated, and they have metatarsal with bump guard." I said, "We got to get you some better gloves." I said, "Whether you hire me or not, let's get some gloves." And he's like, "How much are those?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. I'm going to estimate 10 to 12 bucks a pair." And he looked like he was going to faint. He's like, "I'm paying $1 a pair." I said, "Yeah, but I talked to your guys. They're telling me they're going through 7, 8 pair a week." I said, "In the long run, it's going to save you money to buy the $10 pair, because I know from other business partners, they freaking get them. They last 3 or 4 months. So they're built better. They last longer, and they give you, if you make a mistake, you might not get the cut that needs stitches. You might get a small injury, and it might be a situation where it's not time off. It's not anything. It might be, oh, this happened. You investigate it and you continue on." So I had numbers from another business partner. And actually, when you go from a hunk of junk glove that you're using too many of to a glove that is built better and lasts longer, it literally saved him over $150,000 in the first quarter when he bought those gloves. And he went, "Dude, you're right. These things are nice. My guys love them, and no one's pinching their fingers anymore."
Yeah, and it's just it's, I guess, a mind frame of getting ahead of it, paying a little bit more upfront, and knowing you're going to have the quality PPE that you're not going to be replacing or having your crews replacing all of the time.
Absolutely. So that's just, and I hate going immediately to PPE. When there's injuries involved and people involved, I like to try to eliminate the hazard if possible. But that's a great story, because everybody wants cost, right? Everybody wants to understand cost. So yeah, hey, you buy more expensive glove, it's going to save you 150 grand. And I didn't even mention all the medical claims that went away. So he got rid of all those. And there was, if you made a mistake, even if it was something as simple as maybe if you're using it on a geoprobe and you're cutting a liner, and you slip and cut your finger, handle the liner wrong, and those cut rated gloves don't even get you a cut. Now you don't even have the guy running. It's not even going to know something would have happened, right? Because there's not blood on the sample. So he's just going to keep working and not even know there was an incident, so to speak. So yeah, man, there's all kinds of ways that cost affects it. But when you step back and look at it and really work with your guys, that's when it becomes, hey, it's not expensive to put safety in place. It's expensive not to have safety in place.
You had touched on kind of avoiding or minimizing risk, eliminating risk. How do you think about prevention when it comes to common injuries you might see on a job site?
There's so many things you can do. One of my favorite things, the name of the company, Safety, spelled wrong. The joke is I went to Slippery Rock and I didn't teach that in class. Safety, SAFT, supervisor accountability frequency training. And that training part is a big part of it. And it's on our logo, it's behind the hand. The T is on an open hand. I want hands-on training. I want the guys that do the job, because of the type of job and the type of guys and girls that work out, in the oil industry and in the environmental side, they're all hands-on people. So don't waste time slapping them in front of this online BS, or, pull that 4 to 8 hour safety day stuff where people's, attention spans are terrible and their phones are going off in their pocket. Get them hands-on training. It's a big improvement to the process, and teach them, train them, in many things. I have a couple business people I work with where they rotate. So if you're a driller or a helper or, support guy, you learn all three jobs as you go through the process of getting involved in the company. And that really helps with a lot of other issues that can come up. Somebody gets sick, somebody misses, somebody, whatever, it takes the new job. Now you have a helper that's ready to step in and become that driller or the guy responsible. So I tell everybody there's no canned answer for that one. I like to evaluate every situation, every company, every group, because all people are different too. Some people might need that online reading and that online training or the book in front of them to grasp. They might not be a hands-on type of people, but a lot of people in this industry are. So you have to be willing to look at everybody specifically to make it effective, to train and to help out with that. So that's one angle. There's, that's one of those questions we could talk a lot about, and for, more than the time we have. There's no doubt.
Yeah, fairly open-ended, but I just kind of wanted to get like a philosophical view. So when incidents do happen, naturally the focus is on the injury, the person involved. how it happened. But setting that aside, walk us through the implications for an employer. Like, one of my folks got injured. What happens next in terms of reporting, compliance? Do I have to talk to my insurer? Like, what happens there?
Well, that's always something to, have in the back of your head, man. Being a business owner, you got to do the right thing. So it depends on the severity of the incident or injury. You could have to notify OSHA within X amount of time if people are put in the hospital. If it's a fatality, you have to notify all the right departments. So OSHA could be one where you're going to have to contact. You better be making sure you're submitting it to your insurance carrier for the comp, whatever state you're in. You're going to have to get a hold of a claims director or the claims person so you can get the process going. So there's the proper coverage for the employee, whether they're in the ER or going to get, whatever treatment is needed. So instantly, and heck, in the environmental side, I mean, if an incident occurs where there's release, now you have to get onto the side of notifying all the environmental people. So, man, you better have a program in place that you understand. And I always tell everybody, especially in drilling side and the environmental side and production side, you have to have all the forms and everything you need in place. And I honestly believe that the drillers should be a point of contact that start this process and collecting the information with the call back to whoever you're going to put in charge of making the notifications from the office side. The implications, my goodness, a mistake call in a wrong state. Let's just say Pennsylvania, 21 days from the time an employee notifies you of a work comp injury to decide how that claim is going to go for the rest of the history of that claim. So you have a limited time window to jump on it, do your investigations, figure out what's going on and handle it. Not to even mention, if something bad happens and you're notifying OSHA, because they're going to want to come out, they're going to want to see what's going on. And a lot of times, you might drill at a site and be done in a day or two. If it's a small job, you're putting some monitoring wells in, maybe the gas station or something. So their limited window of visit might, make it even crazier process. So there's a lot that can go wrong and a lot that needs to be done when there is an incident, right? So did that help you out with that?
Yeah. It just, it occurs to me that, obviously safety is everyone's goal. There are a lot of kind of mom and pop shops out there who may not have had an injury. They may not have experienced this before. And we probably, I think in the next few years are going to have a lot of folks coming into the industry, given all the emphasis on infrastructure funding right now. So I think there's going to be a lot of new folks coming around that can probably benefit from that walkthrough. So I appreciate you going through it. So walk me through a morning safety meeting. Like, what if I'm conducting one? What are the high points? How do I, keep people's attention off their phones or their, the night before or whatever, and keep it on safety?
With a big ass pair of steel toe boots to kick them if they're not paying attention. No, I'm kidding. So what I like to do is I like to refer to as high intensity training, right? Like a hit. So short duration, make it specific to the task that you're getting ready to do. Whether it's, if you're drilling at a busy convenience store or something, and there's a boatload of traffic, that would be a great topic to talk about. Your high vis clothing, what you're going to do, what PPE you're going to wear, and it's personal protective equipment. So hard hats, safety glasses, the situation. Or maybe it's a day where you're drilling near a overhead power lines, and you better be talking about, looking up the distance from the lines and what could happen, and the plans to take the rods down and out, and all the things that could happen. And it doesn't have to be 40 minutes or an hour. You can do this in 5-10 minutes, sign here. And I'm a big fan of using examples. So instead of talking about proper lifting is a topic that everybody likes to cover because there's a lot of strains and sprains. It's a heavy lifting job. If you're moving 6-inch augers, man, bring a couple over and have two guys demonstrate a proper team lift, or show them how to use the proper J hook for lifting it on with the equipment instead of manually lifting stuff. Do it live and here, sign off. Everybody agree, we're good. And then I always like to tell everybody, hey, if you're going through a process of a job and the task is going to change later in the day, don't be afraid to go, hey, we're expecting to be done with this phase of the job by 1:30. At 1:30, we're going to have another meeting talking about whatever that hazard might be. I just found out that high intensity, fast paced, hands on, have some fun with it and get it over training sticks in people's head. Because the more you do that, the more hours of training you get throughout the course of the year. So 1 or 2 or 6 of those a day, man, that's way better than a 1 4-hour or 8-hour day where you're trying to jam stuff in guys' heads. Just so much better that way. So that's my favorite tailgate safety toolbox talk way to go personally. It just seems to work better, especially with the way the phones have conditioned people to have short attention spans.
Yeah.
So just try to match it to the current,
Yeah.
situation, so to speak.
Yeah. Deliver safety in bite-sized chunks. So in your presentation at the NDA event, you talked about pre-employment standards, and they have to be high because folks are operating heavy equipment and whatnot. But how do I keep them high? When it's basically an employee's market right now. I mean, construction workers are hard to come by. A lot of companies are chasing the same folks. How do I keep high standards in an environment like that?
There's a lot you can do. So what I always try to drive is the idea and the concept that you want to have a good business. You don't want people to get hurt, and you want the best damn employees you can get. So one of the best ways to do it is when you're getting ready to hire people is, explain to them your task, your philosophy on your business, how you treat your employees, let them see that there's upward mobility, and use all the tools out there. Do your due diligence, because most companies are going to hire their biggest work comp claim, believe that one or not. It's walking in the front door. It's not going to happen out on the job, right? For every good employee, there's probably a few that aren't, is what I'm trying to say. And again, it's all on the person, but if you do this, the proper work up front, knowing who your good employees are. One of my favorite things that I've stumbled into the last few years is called predictability index, the PI. So what a lot of the people I work with, we use it. So what happens is, you as an owner, you go, hey, what's my perfect employee? So who's my best driller? Then let's say you have 2 of those guys, right? Or 3, whatever. You have them take that PI test. And then I almost guarantee you their personalities are going to be very similar. So then what that does is it gives you a profile for the job. So why, have 80 applicants come in for a job they might not even like or want? So with that test, that's the person I want. It actually will help you write your want ad. All right. So it'll give you keywords that if I'm that profile, when I read it, I'm like, oh man, this is my dream freaking job. I want to work for this company. So you're thinning people out and don't even know it. And then the person that comes in as a new employee takes the test, and he has the same pattern as that star employee. The rest is history, so to speak, because you can train that person in your company policies, how to run your equipment. That's a trainable person in most times. So there's all kinds of newer stuff out there a lot of people have never even heard about. And that's, again, it's one of those things too. If you're going to use PI, you have to have the right employee doing it. And I'm lucky because one of the guys that does it around here he's like a psychotherapist. He's brilliant, and he can explain it, and he understands it, and he knows what he's looking for. And everybody I've ever introduced him to or he's worked with, I mean, it absolutely makes it easier. Then you have all your other stuff. You can do functional capacity evaluations. You can do a good interview process and be straightforward. You can do your background checks. There's all kinds of tools to make that standard what it is, and just tell the people, hey, we take it seriously. We don't want to have a miss when we're hiring somebody, because it costs so much money to go through the hiring process. It's vital. And obviously doing, your drug test and all that is going to get interesting, as a lot of these states are now letting, things like marijuana become legal. Now what do you do?
How's an employer to navigate that? When what is the latest count? Like 38 states have legalized cannabis.
Yeah. The HR people hate me for this one. So
I'm gonna get you in trouble yet.
Yeah, well, I don't need any help. I bring it. It seems to follow me. I always tell everybody, when you're playing with heavy equipment, I don't see a need to even make it, whether they're legally have their card or whatever. I don't want that going on when I'm around a drill rig where people can die if there's a mistake made. I'm sorry.
Yeah, like
I
a
believe in being
zero tolerance.
zero tolerance,
yeah.
whether it's legal or not. Because just like drinking, you gonna let me drink a 6-pack and then come out and run that rig? I mean, you're allowed to drink to a certain point, and hell, I don't want anybody even having a beer at lunch and trying to run a rig. That's a zero tolerance thing, right? So I look at it the same way as from my angle in the world. I'm like, we're going to handle it like we handle alcohol on the job. We don't want zero tolerance, just because the potential for catastrophe is pretty big.
All right. Well, with that, we'll wrap up today's episode. Thanks again, Greg. And where can the audience find out more about you?
Probably the easiest way is hit the website. Our website is www.safety, spelled wrong, integration.com. We got some videos. It's newly renovated and updated. So the videos are kind of formal and informative, is what I'm hearing from some of the people I've asked to check them out. And then it'll have a phone number on there. You can hit us, you can call me, you can email me. It's all on the website. It's probably the best way to go. And man, I can't thank you enough for getting to chat with you again. And it was a blast seeing you at the NDA in Pittsburgh. That was a really good time.
Yeah, it was a good show. So, great to connect. So, and for the audience, you can find fresh episodes of this show on our website or on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Just search Drilling Insight and hit that subscribe button. And of course, visit thedriller.com for the latest industry news and views. So until next time, this is Drilling Insight.